to Real Quick with Danielle Young. That's me, your girl, journalist, the content queen, Blue Ivy's best friend, and the only girl still in quarantine, apparently. There's a party happening literally right now outside of my apartment. And I'm very jealous and concerned. But today is so special. You guys know on Real Quick, we love to, first of all, come at you real and quick. But you know, sometimes these conversations, the realness takes over the quickness. But this is such a special episode because, first of all, we have two Black women, and y'all know how I feel about Black women. And they are incredible because they are both mompreneurs. Listen, as an entrepreneur myself, my eyes glaze over when it starts getting too businessy for me. So I can't wait to talk to them about this. But to also be a mom on top of it, I'm just like, I'm stressed for them. But they are doing things for people, specifically for Black women. But we have Taryn and Kendra. They are the bosses of their own business. We have a Black-owned Bikram Yoga Works plus Black-owned travel agency called the Trip Wish List. And they are like literally taking their super forces, combining them to create a wellness retreat that's going to happen next year. You know, Rona pending. We're going to pray. Don't be afraid. Don't be triggered. Everybody's like, in person. Yes, we will eventually get there. Their mission is to elevate the conversation of consciousness of health and wellness amongst us, people of color. And they are going to be doing that through this retreat, and they also do the work through their own businesses. So let's get both of our guests, Taryn and Kendra. Hi, how are you guys? You women.
Hi.
I'm so glad to have y'all on here. I ask everybody that comes on, and we'll do this however you guys want to do order-wise, whoever wants to jump in. But I always ask, who are you? And what is one of the things that you love most about who you are as a person in this world? So whoever wants to jump in, Taryn or Kendra.
My name is Kendra Blackett-Dibinga, and I am the Chief Visionary Officer of Bikram Yoga Works and Drip Studios. I live in Washington, D.C. I'm a mom of 3 lovely children, 2 girls and a boy. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I think I started my first entrepreneurial venture in college, and it's just been nonstop ever since. I feel like I have a penchant for that. I get an idea and I run with it. And you know, being able to join forces with Taryn in what we're doing in this wellness space and really giving people time to really take a step back and breathe is just one of the latest ideas that we've had. And so it's a pleasure to be with you guys. Beyond being a Chief Visionary Officer for my company, I am also a wellness enthusiast, right? I work out, I try to eat well.
Look at them arms. You're trying to hide them a little bit. We see you.
I mentor others on the same thing as well. So I love what I do. I quit my job about 6 years ago, and I have never looked back. So let me just say that.
Listen, the dream. You gotta make those leaps. And yes. Before we get into you a little bit, Taryn, let me get back to you, Kendra, about the thing that you love most about you as a human being in this world.
I feel like I'm an intuitive person, and I use my intuition a lot to just determine whether or not I move forward on a business venture, whether or not I move forward on a relationship venture, and whether or not I, interface with you, period. You know, so my intuition drives what I do. I feel like I'm deeply intuitive. That's something I got from my father. I rely on that for almost everything I do.
That is good, because you need that. That it's like a special muscle inside that you have to like figure out how to use. Because sometimes I think we don't even listen to it. But you learn to, and you learn to trust that. I have a friend that calls that the God code, because it's like a little message, a little something between you and God where you just know.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Every time I don't listen to it, that's when I get myself in trouble. So
like,
I've honed that a lot, especially even through COVID times, because I call it COVID times. But especially now, because so many things are coming your way. You're trying to kind of navigate through this space. Intuition is my biggest superpower.
I feel that. Listen, you got to tap into it. And for you, Taryn, let's go back into the question of who you are and the thing that you love most about yourself as a person.
Okay, cool. Well, I think of myself as a creative explorer. I like to create and I like to explore. And my first actual travel memories were with my family. We did a lot of road trips. I was age 4 and we drove all over the United States pretty much every year. But I go back to that first travel memory because it was so foundational and it was just so great to be with my family and have all that interrupted time and explore different places. And so it kind of, I've been traveling ever since, or had the desire to travel ever since. And so I, fast forward, have still been traveling to different, parts of the world, been to all 50 states, and more than 75 countries. And so, but I still have wanderlust. And I think that it's because those trips with my family made such an impression. And the creative side of, if I don't feel kind of myself unless I can create things. And so by creating these experiences, it gives me sort of that avenue to combine the explorer role with the creative role. I used to sing with my sister. We used to create songs whenever we had a tape recorder. We used to write songs and create them. I used to write little poems and books. I would steal my sister's books, read them to learn the content for like French, for computer programming, all kinds of things. And so I always had this creative sense. And so it's great to bring the two together in a way with the trips.
Got you. And that it sounds like to me, one of the things that you ended up loving about yourself is the idea of like the exploration of things. Places, the reading of the books, and I identify with that. I was very much that kid too. Like like my sister is 3 years ahead of me, and I'd be like, "What homework is that? Can I please do?"
Exactly.
That cursive girl.
Yeah.
So I feel that the exploration spirit, and oh my gosh, 50, all 50.
Yes.
Listen, and all the countries. How many hundred?
Not 100 yet, more than 75.
Oh, I thought you said 175, and I was like, wait. Is that possible? Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Still, I don't think I've been to like that many at all, but that is incredible. So, two of you, two different worlds. How did we combine? What happened?
Well, Taryn and I actually went to grad school together. She actually graduated a year ahead of me, and we both found ourselves in the DC area in around 2003, 2004, and we connected just became friends, right? As I said, I'm an entrepreneur, so I also do Sister Lock. So I did Taryn's here, and we would just always be talking about our dreams about this, and in the process, and at that time, I was still kind of developing what Bikram Yoga Works will become. And she was also always like, I want to go overseas, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And so we just kept talking, and then we started doing under Bikram Yoga Works, started doing retreats, and we were going to Mexico like for 3 years in a row. And I said, the experience was good because we brought people to places they had never been. And then I said, but there's something missing. I didn't want to keep going back to Mexico. I didn't want to keep going back to the same place. So I talked to Taryn one day and we were like, why don't we just create an adventure, and then of course we called it adventure because of the yoga. And so we decided, let's try this. And our first location that we went to was Costa Rica, super successful. Everyone who went just had an amazing time. And then each year after that, the retreats just kept growing and growing. People really wanted to be with us, wanted to join the women. They thought we were having so much fun. We would post all of our pictures of what we were doing. And of course, it was a little bit of yoga. It was yoga, but it was also exploration. And I think that really helped us bring the two brands together because of course, we want to do yoga, give people time to really come back to themselves, have these times where they don't have to be worried about the distractions of the work, of the home life, of anything else, and really have time to take care of themselves. Not only are they doing yoga, but they're eating very healthy food, prepared foods for them throughout the week that we're gone. And Adventures was born. And from there, we started looking at other ways to partner, such as Yoga on Blanc, which I'll let Taryn talk about.
Oh yeah, let's get into that a little bit, Taryn, because I do want to also go back and talk a little bit more about those individual businesses and how, you know, you guys were working and then it came together. So let's get into Yoga on Blanc.
Okay, so we were on a retreat in Bali, and I don't know if you've been to Bali, but you know it's
supposed to happen
everything
this year, Taryn.
And I said, Kendra, why don't we kind of, you know, come up with something that is like a social event, yoga and socializing and community. And so we decided, yeah, let's pursue this yoga en blanc concept when we were on the retreat in Bali.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's a global wellness movement, as we like to call it, for multicultural health enthusiasts, to escape kind of like the everyday routine and focus on their holistic health through like exciting experiences that blend yoga, nature, and community.
Mm-hmm.
And so the signature event is the yoga on the last day, where people practice yoga while wearing all white attire.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's symbolism with the color white in yoga, but it's really pretty to see all these people with white. It's just kind of, I don't know, it reminds me kind of like a wedding almost, but it's just really, really pretty. But it's also, it's just, to me, it's about the community connection, people coming together to focus on their health and make connections with one another. I think that to me, that's the essence of why we do the retreats.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And both of you, these are essentially you're Black women, you're business owners, but you guys are both in these areas that aren't inherently Black, right? Like I've had several people on the show to talk about wellness in that space, and they are Black women, and they talk about, you know, the lack of Black women in that space and how jarring that is a lot of the times. So can you talk about that? Because I understand, you know, we all need both of these. We all need to, you know, be moving our bodies, and we need to be taking, you know, a chance to explore the world, COVID pending. But still, you know, those things are very necessary. And now that you guys are doing this together, did you ever experience those type of times where you didn't inherently feel, I don't want to even say didn't feel welcome, but just felt like it wasn't a space that Black women were in or dwelling in?
For sure. I was a personal trainer in very white spaces. Most of my clients were white. And then when I started teaching yoga, of course, it was the same thing. So when I decided to open my first studio, I really wanted it to be in an area that was very diverse and really introduce the yoga itself, wellness, to a community that was underserved. I live in Washington, D.C., but sometimes I have to travel 45 minutes to an hour to get a wellness service, whatever that may be. And so when we decided to open up our studios, we were very intentional about putting it in places where we know we would attract people who looked like us. And it's not to exclude others, but it's to include those who haven't been included.
Right.
And it was when we opened our doors, we were like, wow. And for real, the people who started with us, some of them had never taken a yoga class before, ever. And because of who we were able to really bring these people into the fold. A lot of Black women have come into the studios, and by extension, their families have come in. So their husbands, their boyfriends, their children. So it's like a movement of wellness amongst our community where it's okay to take 90 minutes of a class for yourself. You know, that's the one time that you have to completely disconnect from the world around you and focus on yourself. And that was it was so heartwarming. Every time I walked into the studio, and I told someone the other day, I said, my studios are a vision of the world I want to live in. Right, it's diverse, it's inclusive, it's multicultural, it's everybody, like anybody and everybody can
Listen, we
show up
love to hear that.
and find a home. And in fact, many people actually refer to our studios as their second home. People actually sit here after class and like literally, COVID, changed that a little bit, but you still see that need for people to connect, and that is what I love the most about it.
Love that. And what about for you, Taryn? Like, I know nowadays I think people are more honed in on self-care and the need to have like the space of wellness and retreat, especially because that, it's socioeconomic, it's all these things. So what has been your experience, especially as a Black woman, within the space that you're in when it comes to travel and like / retreat?
Whew. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I grew up in the South. And so the first thing that comes to mind is just stories from my parents and just growing up in segregation and not being able to freely move around.
Mm-hmm.
And so once they got the opportunity to do so, they took us, they took us wherever they could. And so it's kind of like that is at its core of why I travel. It's my parents didn't have the ability to do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
They would love to, but for their safety and because of the environment, they couldn't. And so that's why I'm like always pushing people to travel. They probably are tired of seeing me looking at my face. They're like, because I'm going to push you to travel. And I've been trying ever since I got that like first taste of it. Just pushing people in that direction because I actually consider travel to be a factor of wellness.
Mm-hmm.
There's studies that show that Americans don't take, I don't even know the percentage, but a lot of the vacation days that they're afforded for just societal reasons, whatever the reasons are, we don't take them as Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And that affects your health. Not only that, but just the process, the movement that you do when you're traveling, when you're on vacation in particular,
You have to go do things.
You're not working.
Yeah.
You're not working. So you get to devote that time to exploration, wellness, whatever it is, that you want to do. And it's good for your mental health and your physical health as well.
I was going to say one thing. On the trip that we went to Bali, there were actually quite a few women who had never traveled outside of the United States. And this was like their first trip. And I mean, they went 24 hours around the world, you know what I mean, to find themselves
in first trip.
First trip. And we were like, and this one woman, I just remember her story. She's like, and she really didn't want to travel without being with other like-minded people who look like her. And we gave her that opportunity. Now that's like amazing. She was in her 60s, like she was much older and had never ever left the United States. And this was such a heartwarming thing for me to know that we were opening up a world of possibility for people who look like us, who had never had that time and opportunity to say, I'm going to go somewhere for me. I'm going to just do this for me.
Real. Yeah. And that's so good. I love that you guys are opening up the accessibility to be able to do that and the possibility of being able to do that, because that's also something that I think a lot of people, especially in my experience, that like you said earlier, Taryn, like you got that chance to travel when you were younger. Not a lot of Black people and, people of color were given that luxury because, parents are working 24/7 and there's no extra. But there are a lot of parents who have to be creative and who were creative in making sure that there were like trips and things like that involved. So I love that you guys are doing stuff to help open up people's possibility mindset. Even bigger than, traveling, it's traveling plus the extra cherry on top of wellness. I want to talk a little bit about, before we get out of here, about the things that make up an entrepreneur, honey. because that is just not easy. And to do so and then combine your efforts is also another layer, right? So can you talk about, beyond a work-life balance situation, I want to talk about creating space to be these women entrepreneurs, to be these mothers, to be these partners, but then to also pour into a business together. Like, does anything change as far as your tactics or your entrepreneurship? Did it change in any way?
For me, luckily I knew Taryn and I really intrinsically trusted her, right? So Taryn, I said to her, I need your help on these retreats. And she kind of took it and ran with it. I never once had to question her. And I think when, this is a separate conversation, but I was trying to partner with another organization to come into my space. And I realized that there was not that trust. And so after I had spent all this money on like contracts and this and this and this, the person backed out and I was like, wow. And I said, we still have that element of, oh, well, she's trying to get over on me. You know, Taryn and I have had discussions about how we want to run this partnership. And one of the things I realized is like, I let her do what she's good at and she lets me do what I'm good at. and then the two meet, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do what she's good at and she's not trying to do what I'm good at. And I think, you know, again, because we trust each other in those respective ways, like we work so well together. Again, she handles so much of the logistics. She's a detail oriented person. I'm a big picture thinking person. So I don't do well in the details, you know, so right. we kind of found our balance in that. And I mean, for my own business, that's how I also am organizing myself. You know, what am I good at? And then who do I need to bring into my space to complement what I know I'm good at? Because I don't want to do certain things, right? And other people love doing those things. And I'm like, all the power to you, you know what I mean? So I don't think it necessarily changed, but I do think it gave us perspective on how we want to work together and how we could grow this partnership. And because we didn't think of it as anybody getting over on anyone else, the possibilities are endless. You know, from one retreat, we did 3 retreats, and literally each retreat almost doubled in size. You know what I mean? Doubled every time, doubled. We were about to take over 40 women to Morocco until in March when COVID hit, and we're like, I mean, you know, and the next retreat is going to be even bigger, you know. And so this has been, we've really put our forces together and remain in a creative space, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Definitely.
And to echo Kendra's sentiments, I think trust is, when you're working as a partnership, that's the key. Isn't that the key to any relationship, though? And communication. Trust and communication, those are the foundations. But on top of that, on an individual level, having a certain discipline, in my opinion, you know, you got to be willing to do the work day in, day out, or to delegate it with people that you trust, and people that have complementary skill sets. So if you don't want to do something, if that's not your skill set, then you know how to find people that are good at that.
Right.
And to me, I think it also takes a level of tenacity and an unwillingness to settle and quit. You're just not willing to quit. So I'm here, I'm walking down this path, and wherever it leads, I'm gonna figure it out.
That is the key. You have to have straight up and down tenacity in any situation, but to be your own boss and business, and then to bring someone else along to do something else. Like you have to keep going. And the trust, like y'all nailed that one, because I just did not see putting myself in a position to like do business with somebody. Yes. And I can't even trust them. So to be able, like you said, Kendra, to like release the reins and be like, she got it, and to know that she got it. That's it. I like using Real Quick as a source, as a resource for people. And I usually talk to a lot of, obviously, celebrities and celebrated people. And it's mostly because these people are tapped into a different way of thinking to access something greater. than themselves. And I like asking them questions so that I can provide that resource to people so that they can then indeed tap into the same kind of thing. They can use it as a resource. And so I would love for you ladies to be resources for entrepreneurs, for Black women entrepreneurs especially, and offer things that have helped you, at least one or two things that have helped you as business owners and business women in this industry, in the industries that you're in, towards your success. So whatever like resources or like nuggets or the thing that you tap into, what has been something that you always use?
I like to say a book that I read a few years ago that really changed my perspective on business. I mean, I think I was already thinking this way, but it solidified why I thought this way. And it was called The Science of Getting Rich. And it's not just about financial wealth, right? It's about, thinking through of the world as being abundant. And if you understand that the world is abundant, if you get something, that doesn't mean I don't get something. Right? It's not pie, right? So,
right.
You know what I mean? So the more I realized that in my own business, I realized, what is for me and no one can take that away. But I have to put in the work. And so a lot of people, when they look at me, well, how you just, and I'm like, no. You can create the same reality in your world. And if you do that, if you understand that, you can do that on your own. You don't have to think of, well, she got more than me or he got more than me. No, it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? So that book, The Science of Getting Rich, really, and I keep telling everybody to read it, especially those who don't really have this entrepreneurial mindset, because it's always about lack. And the world is not about lack. You drop a seed, something grows. We produce other humans as women, you know what I mean? Everything in this world is abundant. And I wish if everyone understood that, they realize that it's boundless, it's limitless. Like the world is theirs to take.
That's a gospel. What you got, Taryn? She over here preaching, okay?
I know. I'm just.
Yes, she is. That deserved a little.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't have. I don't know. For me, it's simple. It's just find the time, make the time to do whatever it is that you are passionate about, whatever that is. So for me, every day, and now that we're, in quarantine, I spend time outside. I go on nature walks with my daughters because they like to go outside. I wonder why, and explore things and find butterflies and, other little animals and birds and things like that. And so just taking the time and being intentional about taking time to do things that you enjoy. I know it's probably, a lot of us have more time now, but before the quarantine, I was just feeling drained, and now I've gotten a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of pep in my step now, a little more sleep. And the quarantine has shown me that maybe I was just taking on too much. You need to find that time for yourself. And if it's by yourself, great. Or if it's with your kids or whomever else. But we all need to find that time to focus on something that we love and do it as much as possible. If you can do it daily, great. But definitely make sure to find that time, because just doing that during this quarantine, it has made my mood so much better. Not that it was a bad mood before, but I don't know. It's given me a different perspective on life.
I get you. It is. I mean, it's a world pause, and I've definitely tapped into that myself because I've been building my own situation since the start of the coronavirus. Literally right at March 3rd, I lost my job. And so I had to like pivot really quickly and just like figure out what I can do. So here we are a couple of months in, and I made well use of my time. And I'm continuing to do that. So I mean, that is definitely something that people, I know I struggle with, time management, honey. And I'm like, Danielle, you cannot manage time, but you can manage them tasks. So I'm like, that's one thing I hold on to for myself as a growing entrepreneur. Any message you want to leave the audience with on your way out about what you're doing and who you are as this entrepreneur in this world?
Well, we're promoting our event, Yoga on Blanc, and people can go check it out at yogaonblanc.net. And feel free to ask us any questions. If people have questions, just visit our site, yogaonblanc.net.
Gotcha. And then are they able to do that? Is it virtual or is it in person?
It's in person. It's in Bermuda, a 3-night retreat in Bermuda next May.
See, that's what I'm talking about, y'all. We getting on planes, all right? Everybody safely, soundly, 6 feet away, hopefully.
Yes. Yes.
But Yoga on Blanc for next May. I love that.
And for us, for our company, BikramYogaWorks.com, we actually launched a new campaign called I Come to Breathe. And we are looking at, in this world right now where there's all this social unrest and all these things kind of happen and that really kind of take our breath away, literally. We want to change the narrative a little bit and say, know what, I control this. I have the power to breathe and I have the power to press pause. And so that's why I'm wearing my little t-shirt, I Come to Breathe. Come to breathe because, now's the time I think that all of us need to take a step back and just say, you know what, this is happening, but I'm still in control. I am in control. And so I just wish that everyone who's listening, anybody who's thinking of their entrepreneurship, I really encourage people to stay in their creative space. That is it. You got to stay in the creative space, especially now, not the competitive space, the creative space where you create. Once you create, the abundance comes to you, right? It's creation. Yeah.
Well, ladies, it's been a complete pleasure getting to know y'all, getting to know your businesses, and to see Black women working together. We love that. We love to see it. Make sure y'all are tuned in to get your tickets for Yoga on Blanc. Where are they going? yogaonblanc.net. And can they follow y'all?
Yes, you can. I'm Instagram, Taryn Traveler.
Yes.
And Blackett-Dibinga on Instagram.
I'm just so proud of y'all. I love to see a Black woman win, and I love to see her do it in such a glowful way. And it's just awesome to see y'all doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. This has been a pleasure. I'm about to get my ticket.
Yes.
I would love to come. We'll talk.